Tell me a little bit about what's going on right now and why these documents are out there.
Sure. Well, we have a long-term relationship and have had with Johnson Controls. They've been the naming sponsor of the Village. You may recall originally before I joined, it was the Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village. And now through a renegotiated deal in 2020, we felt it more appropriate to have Hall of Fame Village be the lead and then powered by Johnson Controls, which is what they do. They provide services and equipment, things that fire suppression, security, things like that. A lot of people get confused with Johnson Controls and Johnson Johnson. But nevertheless, this is a long-term agreement. We've had a commitment to build assets and use their services for the next, I'll call it 15 years. And what Johnson Controls is saying is that because the building has been slower than what they had originally anticipated it being, that the monetary value they're seeing out of the agreement isn't as great as what they had anticipated. Now, one of the things that I think we all know is that over the last 2 years, we've been facing a very difficult global health pandemic. And of course, our agreement with Johnson Controls considers that as a clause that is referred to as force majeure, meaning we have some relief because of that global health pandemic. And so we have had discussions with them about that. We have a different point of view on being in default versus continuing to buy their product and services as we have. The Village continues to be built. It's going on all around me right now. We've actually opened the Constellation Center for Excellence, which is part of phase 2. We're opening new assets, our Center for Performance, Play Action Plaza, our fan engagement zone. All of that should be open over the next 2.5 months. And so, our perspective on this is, hey, as a long-term partner, our expectation is that we will continue. But we have to go through now a dispute resolution. And we're working that process as we speak with Johnson Controls. We continue to buy their product and service as necessary because we want to continue construction. But I just say this to clarify, Johnson Controls is a sponsor of the Village. Through that sponsorship, we have commitments to buy services and product from them. They're not an investor. They're not a lender. The construction that's going on is not predicated upon their sponsorship. It's predicated upon us investing the amount of equity that we have. We've raised over $130 million of equity through our public offerings. And we brought in tens of millions of dollars of new senior lending debt, TIF financing, PACE financing. And that's what's helping us create the destination and build the assets, not the sponsorship from Johnson Controls.
Gotcha. So I think in short, the easy way to put it is the show will go on regardless of what the outcome of this is. Would that be safe to say?
The show is going on right now, and if you were here, you'd see all the backhoes, the cranes, the construction going on. And yeah, our hope is that we can resolve the dispute with Johnson Controls and continue to move forward. But if not, we'll resolve it in a different way and move forward with another service provider and another equipment provider to build the things that we need to do. But as of today, we're running our process and we anticipate that taking the time that it takes, and the resolution will come from there.
Gotcha. Okay. What do you say about, I know some of what was in there just had to do with past due bills and things like that. They're claiming you guys owe $4.75 million for technology and service agreements that were already in place. Is there money owed to them, or are you guys paid up on your bills thus far, or what's the dispute there?
Yeah, so to be clear, the $4.75 million is a payment that would be due if they terminated the agreement. That's not a back due bill. That's just a payment if we decided both to walk away, that it's a one-time payment that we would make to them. So going back to your question, because Johnson Controls had suspended the sponsorship agreement or put the sponsorship agreement in default, the amount of money they pay to be the naming sponsor for the Village also ties to the services that they provide from our perspective. And that's part of the discussion we're having with them right now. Again, from our perspective, we have not had a breach. And in fact, we've given them that notice as of last Friday. And we have continued to buy their product and pay for their service which is how the village is continuing to be constructed.
Gotcha. So no past due amount at this time. That would only be if the partnership is severed. That's what you would owe potentially.
Correct. And remember what I said earlier, part of their claim is we haven't built things at the timing that we had agreed to, but because of COVID, that we had an extension to be able to do that. We feel like there has been no breach at all, and that's what we'll be resolving with Johnson Controls through this dispute resolution mechanism.
Gotcha. Okay. So from what I understand, the agreement went into place in 2016. And did they anticipate, or was the original goal to have everything complete by 2019? I mean, that would have been pre-pandemic in terms of getting things done. So if they're saying it wasn't done by 2019, it's hard to use the pandemic as an excuse for why it's not done. So can you just go over that for me?
I can, yeah, and you're correct. There was an agreement in place before I joined as the president and CEO that outlined a plan that was a much more elaborate plan. It entailed about $1 billion worth of spend, and all happening at the same time. When I came in, I rephased, or I should say I phased the development. When that happened, we had discussions with Johnson Controls about the new vision and the timing of the creation of that vision. We actually redid the deal. The Johnson Controls deal was redone and re-signed in June of 20. When we re-signed it, because COVID, was just at the early stages in the US, we knew there would be an impact. We didn't know what the impact would be, of course, because it was, 3 months into COVID at the time. And so that clause is a part of the new agreement. We also cut the amount Johnson Controls had to pay to us at that point in time. This is all a matter of public record, by the way. I'm not giving anything that hasn't been disclosed before. When we redid the deal, we kept the term, meaning the length of the agreement, the same, but we cut $36 million out of the original deal, out of respect for the fact that what had been promised to be built hadn't been built yet. Flash forward to today, everything that we had said in phase 2 that was going to be built and opened, it's all under construction right now. And in fact, some of it has been opened already, and we've continued to buy their product and service, as I've said. So we feel like that according to the agreement we signed in June of 20, the sponsorship agreement and the technology as a service agreement, that we have, save for the impact of COVID, we have lived up to all of those commitments.
Why do you believe they would want to terminate at this point if you feel that you've held up your end of the bargain?
Yeah, look, it would be unfair for me to speculate. I can tell you that long-term deals, if you look at what's happened in the world over the last couple of years, goals change, financial obligations change. And so, I can only imagine that for them, this may not be exactly what they thought it was going to be, or they could be in a different position as a company and choose to invest differently themselves. From our perspective, Johnson Controls has been a good partner. They certainly renegotiated the deal and stayed with us. We intend to continue to use their product and service. And, my hope is that we'll have this resolved in the near term. But again, I'll tell you this, the money they pay us is not paid all at the same time. It's paid over a 15-year period of time. And so that money is revenue that the company recognizes. It's not money that we're using to build the assets or the destination.
Gotcha. Okay, so what's next here? What are the next steps for you all? Do you go back to the negotiating table, or is this something that it ends up in court at some point? Just tell me how you guys plan to make this all work.
Yeah, as with most contracts, there's a very clear what's referred to as a dispute mechanism, dispute resolution mechanism outlined in the agreements. And it starts with mediation. We have a mediator come in, they hear both sides and help, sort of lead the discussion. If you can reach an agreement or a negotiated outcome from there, that's where it ends. If you can't, then it goes into arbitration, binding arbitration. And, we've agreed to that versus going into court. And you hire, an arbiter to come in, and they hear both sides, and then they give you a resolution to the outcome. Our preference is to always, with partners, continue to have discussion and talk about what would work for them and what would work for us. And I think that's going to be our goal here, but we'll follow the process and let the mediation begin as soon as we have a mediator in place. I think the key here, Brandon, is that what we get from Johnson Controls is product and service. And for that, we pay for that. What we get back from them is a sponsorship, and they get to have an affiliation with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, professional football, and the village that's being built, correct? They're one of 30 sponsors that we have. Now, they're the naming sponsor for the village, but we are a much bigger company now. We're creating media. We have gaming environments that we're developing. They don't sponsor any of those things, right? And we've actually brought on sponsors like Cleveland Clinic and Forever Lawn and Constellation. So, you know, there's a great belief in what we're doing. And to the extent that other companies want to partner with us, we're actually growing that list of sponsors. In the meantime, we've raised the necessary equity and continue to put the debt in place, and we're building. And so the message to people is, look, you know, we have a very clear vision of what we're doing, and we're now on track coming out of, you know, the heaviest part of COVID to accomplish all the things that we've been promising. We say we do what we say we're going to do, and we're still in that place.